All right, I think I'm alive. I don't know. I gotta check the little doohickey over here. I got some tech problems. I think I screwed it up again. What else is new? How's everybody doing? Let me check the chat. Oh, what a jackass. Hey Joe, I sent you a new link. I think it might be Correctamundo. Check that one out. See if you can pop in over here. I think I wasn't in the studio, but I think I was in the studio or something. All right, everybody. It looks like it's going to start off to be one of those days. I'm going to check now to see if I'm actually live, but I think I am. Yesterday was my son's 8th birthday, and I think I'm hungover on sugar, which is never fun. I had Cinnabon mochaccino, Cinnabon, and then
Collaboration is
here we go.
Success. With ClickUp,
Thick one. And then I had my son's chocolate cake that I made with them. I guess it's off here. All right, I think I am live. All right, so I'm not too much of a jackass. Joe, man, check out the link I just sent you. Yeah, check that link out there, Joe, and let's see if you pop into the studio. All right, everybody, it was a rough day of ODing on sugar. Yeah, good. That's good. Well, come and pop in, Joe. Let me see if I can hear you again. I think I was screwing it up. I'm going to do the trenches. I'm going to get into the trenches, but I actually got some real interesting stuff. I kind of got taken down a rabbit trail by two little things. It's going to be on the line, offense and defense. But this was just really interesting stuff I want to show you guys tonight. And I found some pretty unique stats that I think are going to be very, very telling. Joe, get in here, dude. I sent you the link. Check the link. I said trenches was going to be the main talk for tonight, and the ODing on sugar has left me. There he is. Let's see if Joe, you there?
Hello, testing, 1, 2. Can you hear me?
Hi, can anybody hear Joe? I'm sorry, Joe.
Okay, let me turn it up on the other side.
Going like this.
Let me see if we have an echo.
I monkeyed it up somehow. I don't know how.
Yep, you can hear it on live.
I don't know, brother. I'm sorry, man. I'm going to have to try to get you back in next week or something. I don't know what I did. I apologize. I'm a monkey, dude. We'll try to work on it this week. I don't know why I can't hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can't hear me, it won't work.
All right, brother. All right, so Jackass Curtis the monkey is starting off rocket and rolling. One of his best guys, Joe, hooked up Joe. I'm screwing him over. Sorry, Joe. I'll get you in next week. I don't know what the deal is, man. I was just on this live the other day and it was totally fine. So I apologize, guys. So, yeah, I'm hungover on sugar, man. Like, my son loves chocolate, so I made dark chocolate cake with chocolate chips inside, with dark chocolate icing on top, with chocolate sprinkles, and then we put Oreo cookies on top. And I don't know, I had the mochaccino, Cinnabon, and then about 4 pieces of cake. And I woke up, I can't get rid of this headache. It's crazy. So I'm going to try to do my best. I was really working on the offensive line stuff. I wanted to get into a lot of deep things. But I saw these 2 tweets. And they're really, hey, Steve, what's going on, man? Can you tell Joe I'm sorry? Joe, I'm sorry, man. I am truly a monkey. So anyway, it's going to be about what I wanted to do, but I'm going to kind of a little short because my head is pounding. But this is real interesting stuff. So first off, yeah, I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry. So I saw this one by Omar Kelly. He said last year's 66 quarterbacks started games. The health of your front line play matters, Mike Tannenbaum said to Dan Patrick. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. And then I saw this one. And I don't understand this. This is a really interesting stat. I don't know where to get this stat. Dolphin Analytics, I subscribe to them or tweet, I don't know, whatever the whole thing is. You make them so you see them on the Twitter thing. And it says reliance on solid blocking, use blown block stat. I never heard of that stat. I'm very excited about that stat. I'm trying to find out about it. Anybody knows anything about that stat? Help me out. Miami, much more variant than the NFL average, meaning more dependent on O-line holding their blocks at 3 yards per carry. Al's really smart, so maybe I'll ask him and he can figure it out. But what you see here, and I'm assuming it's a validated stat, it says reliance on blocking, run blocking, and you'll see Team Miami, and it has the 0-0 up, the red part up, where the rest of the league doesn't. And then you see below that, you see Miami is more, needs it more, goes down to the 0-6 and in the NFL. So for Miami is more dependent on their blocking. I don't know where the stat comes from. It's a very intriguing stat. Okay, let me say. Thanks, Joe. An offensive lineman's blown block rate is often how he allows the defender to physically beat him to disrupt the play within the first few seconds per Google. Thank you, Joe. See, should have been on the show, man. It's your tech problem. I didn't screw it up. I'm a tech genius. Okay, good. So it makes sense because I think the trench part is really what I want to get into, and I'm going to add this image that I found on this new stat site I found. And you can see the Dolphins, the proclivity to run to the edge. See, all the way down at the end. This is running left end and right end. We were a very, very heavy edge running team. It was either edge runs for the most part or draws inside. Now, this fits in perfectly with what I want to get into. And I got my little pad over here. Usually I like to memorize it, but the brain is the melon will rot. We run to the edge a ton, but when you run to the edge, that means you got to sustain blocks longer, and it puts more difficulty on the offensive lineman. So when you look at our reliance on good blocks in the run game, I want to dig into it deeper. Joe put up a good little thing of it. Did I put you up there, Joe? Yes, I'll leave it up there for a few minutes. And it makes a lot of sense when you realize we love to run to the edge so much. And when you run to the edge, obviously the clock's ticking and the blocks have to last longer. And that's what I want to start with on these trenches. It's so difficult to try. That's yeah, Steve. Yes, in part, yes. It's a tandem issue. To really cover this stuff, it takes a lot, and I agree with you in part. I definitely, and I think Wright is going to do that. That kid, I think, when you go look at him, he's an inside one cutter, inside C to A run. I think he's going to be able to do some of that stuff. Edge runs fit our speed set. Yes, it does. It does. But everything is a yin and yang, a double-edged sword. Totally does. And so super fast running backs. But obviously, there's some yin and yang to that. And I want to get into the whole concept of the line of scrimmage. And I think what I'm going to try to present here, I'm going to do my best. I want to really put graphics up here on this first initial part, and I didn't get a chance to deliver them because I have a bunch of other graphics. I think it's pretty foundational things that I'm going to try to bring up here and talk about. I don't think there's really a debate. The debate is what's that leeway past this anchor point that I'm going to deliver. And this is the thing. This is the really, you have to understand that what Chris Greer is doing, some people love it. Some people love it to death. Some people hate it. Some people are uncertain. But I think everybody should be fascinated for many, many reasons, because from a football standpoint, there are tried and true concepts, and he's testing them. And it's this testing part. When you go look at one major stat I'm going to show you, it shows you that, yes, these Dolphins are finesse, and yes, they have some lacking on the offensive line. But there's some clear things that this team can get on track. And I was very, very shocked. But it can go both ways. And so unpacking this thing is going to take a little bit of time. So the first concept, I think, if you haven't played any football at any level, it might not sit in your duckbill the right way. And that's time. The word time, the ticking of the clock. That's not actually what time is. It's our cheap perception of the fourth dimension. But I will get there. might hear the Twilight Zone sound. But the way we see time is a chronological ticking forward. Every DC and OC, the number one thing they think about that to set the plate for their play and for their concepts on everything is time. And every player is thinking time, whether he's thinking, like the 2-second mark, I got to be here, or he's just thinking like, I got to be here quick. It's all about time. And so anytime you want to start doing an evaluation on a player, on a play, on a scheme, on a philosophy, understand it's all rooted in time. When that offensive lineman's got his hand in the ground and he's looking, he's like trying not to look at the guy at the second level. He's like, I got to get this guy quick and get to that second level. Those receivers, I got to do an inside post. And the guy on me is playing man and he's got an inside leverage. How am I supposed to get that if there's no alternate course route after that? Or if you're in the red zone and you got to get there. He's thinking, look, I got to get the inside. I got to do this at this certain time. The quarterback's like, hey, man, I've been with this offensive line this many times. I know I got to get this ball out in this situation at this time. Everything is time. The D linemen, the cornerbacks, the D-backs, they're like, I can hold this guy for half a second, and then I got to cover for 3 seconds because I'm expecting the pressure to get in there. Everything is about time. And if you understand that it's this seesaw, this visceral seesaw of how quick the pressure can get in and how long the blocking can happen. The longer the blocking happens to slow down that pass rush, the harder it is for the coverage in a passing game. And as we saw here earlier, the longer you can hold your blocks in the run game, the more it supports exterior running. And so it's this quantity of time that every OC and every DC, every player is got as a foundation towards football. And it all starts at the line of scrimmage. Now, this is not going to be me saying, you got to have the best offensive line and getting rid of Wilkins is we're doomed. Football has these strong tenets. Time will always be a foundational principle for football. It's never going to change. But the variance can change depending on how the game evolves and people finding new ways. And so what I want to get into here is the concept that even when McDaniel comes up, he's sacrificing time to do these motions. But by putting guys in motion, he's creating hesitancy in the defense, which is aiding in his ability to block and to create more time to get a play off. It's also putting guys in positions and all this other stuff, but it's about slowing down this offense, elongating the blocking clock, and it's all about this time movement. And, even with Flores, when he would come up to the line of scrimmage and you have guys come up and they back off and they bring them all up, it's all about creating hesitancy at the very first stage, along with positioning and then confusion and all these other things. But it's about this balance of time. Even if you bring a blitz, that blitzer is coming through the line of scrimmage. Everything is about line of scrimmage control. It ultimately doesn't determine everything, but your ability on defense to get after the quarterback and to control the blocks and to shorten the blocks in the run game of the offense, and then the converse on the offense, this is how all foundations, all plays, the foundations of plays happen. And so the quarterback, the running back, the DB, the linebackers, all these guys, as I brought up about Harbaugh, they filter down by what's happening on the line of scrimmage. Now, some of these guys play roles in the line of scrimmage. The running back can come up and make the block, the tight end. There's all kind of things. And, the safety can blitz and all this, but it's about controlling the line of scrimmage. And that, again, always has to start with time. Time and physicality. These two quotients of time and physicality, they can be handed in certain portions, and you can get a finesse team that does really well. And they create time through different ways. They get the ball. If it's a West Coast offense, they optimize their time by getting the ball out quick, and that slows things down for other plays. And you understand how it plays out. But you have to remember that this time quotient and physicality, they are rooted in concrete concepts. But there's a blur on how much you need of each. And I think that's what we're looking for our Dolphins. Our Dolphins are clearly very finesse. They've moved to skills, but it doesn't mean that they're doomed, because if you have good coverage, you can mask some of this lack of pressure if you don't get it by how you cover. So there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, but time and physicality is two key principles to hold on to. And so the line of scrimmage, some people, they don't think it's a big deal that Wilkins is not here. Some people might overemphasize when he was here, and vice versa for the offensive line. But I want to show you a stat that I looked at NFLsavant.com. I used it years ago, and I forgot. My melon's been rocked too many times. I just totally forgot. But it was. I went on it today. It was really, really good. And so you're seeing at the top our offensive rush charts per week and our defensive rush yards allowed per week. And what you'll notice is a lot of things to dig into it. I don't want to really get too deep because I'm just trying to create a base to work on for both the line of scrimmage on offense and defense. But notice the descending wedge on both sides. Now, you want a descending wedge on defense. We gave up tons of yards starting off, but as the season progressed, our run defense increased, and it was one of the main reasons why our defense was able to ride through some poor pass coverage at times, and even with injuries. And so you could see that descending wedge, which it was good. It wasn't great. It was good. It was I don't think it was top five. I got what our run defense was pretty darn good, but not, super great. There's a couple of games in there that we had some uncontrolled runs, but not many. And then, but the converse was, if you look at the top one, that's our offensive rushing yards. And you can see how that too descended. And so you see on one side of the ball, we were managing control of the line of scrimmage in the run game, and the converse was happening. And the problem is that as you descend deeper and deeper into the season, into bad weather games, and into the postseason, you need to have that wedge either be neutral, a slight descending, or you would prefer an ascending. But we had a strong descending wedge here. And so what it shows is that our defense, as far as controlling the line of scrimmage in the run game, did their job. And it's going to be interesting to see what Wilkins played with this. There's a lot of ways to work around Wilkins, and there's a lot of ways not. But I want you to see the line of scrimmage and understanding the time factor and the physicality factor, and how everything germinates from the line of scrimmage, and how our offense, if you saw in the previous stat, was very reliant on long blocks. Now, this last little stat group that I'm going to put together is shocking. And this NFLsavant.com is amazing, because you can program your parameters. And by doing so, you get some unbelievable stuff. Now, I'm not hyping it. Wait till you see this next stat group here. And this next stat group, it is not going to say we could do it, or it's not going to say we're going to do them, but it's going to present some realities and a great unknown. When you see this, you're going to say, wow, man, if this thing gets fixed, what would have happened? But then you got to say, well, if it doesn't get fixed, what's going to happen? So, all right, so we have all these concepts. I apologize if maybe it's getting a little too Twilight Zone in some ways. I wanted to dial this in better, but like I just my head's rocked, as I said. But check this stat out I got right here, and I put these three stats together, and it's going to say a lot of stuff that's shocking, and I'll just put it up here. Okay, so Savant, you can program your own stats, and you get a data chart, and you can find out where your team. You might be able to do players. I got to get into it. Where it ranks. Richard, yeah, I'm old school, missing the days of physicality in the run game and players who played no matter what. Football those days, a bunch of prima donnas, lack of passion. There is some truth to it. There is. It's a really deep conversation because, it goes back to the idea of what came first, the chicken and the egg, or does art influence life or life influence art? Thanks, Steve. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Oh, dude, that cake that was so good. But I never had chocolate anymore or any sugar, man. It was like I felt like a cocaine addict. It was crazy. So, I don't want to get off track too much, but is the physicality or the way the players are? Is it football's influencing it that way, or is it life influencing these players? I see my sons, and I was out having knife fights by 13, running out from my house in the middle of the night, and doing crazy stuff, man. I was crazy stuff all the time from like 8 years old on, and so that made me who I am. But I know a lot of my friends did that. Most of you guys that are my age group. Maybe not knife fights, but you would win fist fights, and you would go out of your buddy's house and you ride your bikes. Like I look at my kids, they don't do any of that stuff. So I don't know if it's the players so much, or it's the framework of the NFL, or it's the framework of life, or a combination of all three. I do believe there's a level of narcissism. I do believe that if you actually check like X. And Facebook, whatever that stuff is, the guys who originally made it, and there's a bunch of psychologists talked about if you use a certain amount, it actually exasperates narcissism. These guys all use that. So all these kids use that stuff. So who knows? But to put that out there. But anyway, I want to get back to this. So if you take a look at this data set here, the top one is offensive holding. All downs, 40 yards to go. We had 17 total holding calls on the season, but when we were 40 yards to the opponent's end zone, we had 12. Do you know how devastating that is? And wait till I get to my last data set here. It's going to be whoa. And I could dial this in more. I was working on getting the numbers and stuff, but I was all over the place. So you got 17 holding calls. We were one of the worst in the league. We got better everywhere, dude, in our discipline. Everywhere, except for holding. Holding was a big problem. I don't know if these are pass holdings, run holding, but I know some of them were running holding. I remember Tehran holding but it wasn't this. It was someplace else. It was in the 20-yard line. So, but you got 12 holding calls when you're on the 40-yard line with 40 yards left to go to put points on. So the next one is offensive breakdown, all downs in opponent's 40 yards to goal. This means if you're don't forget about the 12 yards plus. I should monkey that up. It's not supposed to be there. It's not supposed to be there. I think it was like it was 12 yards to go, not third down. It was 12 yards to go at any down. That's the middle one. So look where we're ranked. We've got 63 plays in 40 to go where we were either first, second, or third down and 12 plus. So that's off schedule. So you're getting off schedule. At least 12 of these, of these plays is coming because of holding, false starts, stops behind the line of scrimmage, sacks. And then when you get to the last one, third down at 40 yards to go, to goal, 12 yards and plus, we had, it looks like 21 plays. So we aced or were much better all the way up to our opponent's 40-yard down. Once we started getting in kill territory, we had holding calls, we had negative plays, we were consistently off schedule. And it's this off schedule stuff. Remember all the screens we'd run and the guy would get tackled from behind the line of scrimmage? All this stuff limited our point scoring potential. Now, on the plus side, how close we were winning a bunch of games against good teams. How much did this factor in? If you just simply control your holding, you would have a ton more opportunities. If you didn't get so many negative plays and didn't have this level of output of difficulty, extra adverse difficulty, and it would make everything, once you're off schedule, the line of scrimmage, it becomes more difficult for the offense to control their time and easier for the defense to control their time. But if the Dolphins rectify this just slightly, what will be the possibilities? Now, on the negative side, you had Connor and you had Hunt, and now they're going to be fully removed this season. What does this all amount to? Well, we don't know. We got OBJ, we've added Jonnu Smith, we've added Wright. So, but the reality is, the more the other team physically manhandles, the more you have to hold too. Yeah, totally. And I really am a big fan. I'm a big fan of Kyle Krabs. I really like him as a person and as a deliverer. And somebody was telling me, he said that he thought Eichenberg was going to be fine. So I also I did a little side study today too. I watched Washington, Eichenberg versus Washington. If you look at his ratings, that's his best game that he was rated. But if you go to that game, he had Tehran, he had Connor, and he had Hunt. And I went back and watched that game, and I wasn't impressed at all. So this year, I think he's starting. I think he's starting at right guard. I think he's starting next to Jackson with Brewer and Wynn and Tehran. So we've got to see how this plays out. It's going to be very easy to say, oh, Eichenberg sucks. I mean, from last year, he's got a long way to go. But we'll see. But then on the other side, we got Peely. And some people said he looked really, really good so far, moving well. You got to see. You got Sealer, and you got not Norman Hand, Deshaun Hand. So these guys, Jackson, not so much actually, Eichenberg and Jones and Brewer and Wynn and Driscoll maybe. And then on the other side, Peely, Sealer, and Hand and whoever else we got in there. They're going to be the ones that are focusing on the A gap. And it does create a trickle effect of controlling the line of scrimmage. And so it will be we don't know how this is going to play out. But if you look at this, a lot of the stuff that lended our consistency was our ability to stop the run. And some of our inconsistency was our inability to run. If we could pick this curve up just a little bit on the offense while maintaining the same defensive rush thing, or even it gets a little worse when you add our excellent secondary, what it appears to be, and then you can get rid of some of these holding calls, especially when you're going in for the kill and heading towards the red zone, and you can stay on schedule, what's the possibilities? Maybe Chris Greer and his concept of going light on the A gap and then building heavier to the B gap and then building into your skills is going to play out correctly. I don't know if it's going to be this year. Chubb's going to come in a little bit later. Phillips will come later. But we got to wait to see. But it'll be very, very interesting. To me, as I said before, the offense has got to do well. And look, if Eichenberg just does, I saw so many holds this year, they're not calling. And I don't think they're going to call this year. And so Eichenberg would be a hold machine in previous years, but it actually helps lesser talent on the offensive line, and this could actually play into our hand. We got to see. But ultimately, it's going to come down to physicality, and it's going to come down to time. And so when you go through this list over here, especially with being off schedule, and you look at our inability to hold up under the blitz, 2.08 time to throw during the blitz, and then our 2.09 clean throw time, you understand that we have to throw fast because time is the primary concept, number one thing that Mike McDaniel's thinking about. He's thinking about getting the ball out fast. Why? Well, you can make your judgment. You don't throw 75% of the time at 2.09 seconds and say, that's what I want. You want to hold that ball longer because it takes longer. It's easier for guys to get open. There's no way that anybody is going to say, I got to throw fast. The only reason they say you got to throw fast is because your block's not holding up. So the concept of time in the motions helps with the blocking. It helps with the confusion. It slows the time down. And we get that ball out fast. Why? And so, but on the other side, remember that the pass rush, it goes two ways. You know, that secondary can be a coverage secondary, and you can get coverage sacks. The converse is, you know, you get the pressure, and it makes the job easier on the secondary. Now, you can't hold up under with the coverage as much as you can when you have strong pass rush. It's a little bit more. Can you see me? Can you see me? I'm back, I think. Oh, man, this tech stuff. Guys, I'm sorry. Started out a tech thing. Back to the tech thing. Man. All right, guys. So I'm back. So ultimately, yeah, I think I got this thing over here. So ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to time. And I think someone had a good thing over here. Let me get this over here. Feels like Mike McDaniel thinks his 2-second scheme can work against anybody. Injuries just got in the way, considering the players added. Dolphins essentially built in redundancies and running back, wide receiver, and tight end. I agree to an extent. I also think that he's given a certain amount of talent. And yeah, I froze all right. Monkey. I don't know. I don't know how to see it, guys. I don't know if Mike McDaniel's in control of the team talent. I don't know if he's picking the guys. It seems like Greer's had a way about way he believes offensive linemen. And I thought he was a little bit higher on defensive linemen. I thought he was going to keep Wilkins. I kind of hoped he was. But I don't know if I don't understand how Mike McDaniel can think that this offensive line is good enough. But to Greer's side, look how close we got with what we had last year. And if you got a little bit of depth and you get a little bit of luck and you don't get these holding calls and all these negative plays, maybe it can work out. I mean, we've never seen, I don't think we've ever seen Waddle, Hill, OBJ, Jonnu Smith, Achane Mostert, and now this other guy, what's his face, the new running back we got. And so if this offense can keep time of possession and do what it's doing and not screw up and put more points on, and this defense can sit in pass coverage and not have to worry about the run game so much and just start blitzing guys and trying to create the time quotient to their side. Because remember, that's what Weaver likes to do too. Same thing with Flores. He'll bring all these guys up, as I said in my other podcast, where it's simple but complex, and then the quarterback's got to process it, but then so do those linemen. And every time that lineman's not sure who he's going to get to, there's a pause, there's a hesitancy, and it might shift his technique out of here. So I think we've got to see. I still believe it's going to come down to a gap. I just don't know how much. And I'm really intrigued to see if Peely and Eichenberg and Brewer and Hand and Sealer, all these guys can bring that level up just enough to keep going. If we had of course, yeah. Dude, just didn't. That's what's like so crazy. So you're saying if I had an all-pro offensive line and I didn't have to get the ball out of 2.09 seconds, I could get it out of 2.4 seconds. You don't think they would have like ridiculous stats? If this team could block inside, of course, yeah. The old line. If we had an offensive line that was even 15th, we'd be almost unstoppable. That's what my point is. Now you're going to add the D line to it now on top of that, but yeah, it's crazy. And so that's why Patrick Paul, if he comes to play and he develops. And then you get a bunch of picks next year, and you can add a couple of linemen. I mean, he got on Hunt. He doesn't have a great success rate. But if you can add 2 or 3 pieces on his offensive line and a good pieces, it's not going to help us this year, but next year, just think what this could do. It would be unbelievable. That's why, I was crazy that we drafted Easy over Zach Tom. It was mind-blowing, in my opinion. But, maybe Easy turns out to be a stud of studs this year. I don't know. So, we would be ridiculous. So ridiculous, man. So, but I think fans, fans want to focus on Tua and fans want to focus on the skills. And they're all key, but it all starts at the line of scrimmage. It all starts with being on schedule. It all starts with time. It all starts with physicality. And I think you've got to evaluate that stuff and then build yourself out. Because injuries definitely do. But we had lots of injuries the year before. So, yeah, I'm sure Tehran wasn't himself. I'm sure that the holding calls, but, at a certain point, it's got to be what it's going to be. We'll find out this year. As we've struggled with physicality on the O-line, and guys, they hold because they can't maintain that position. Could be because of injuries. That's a fair take. We had loads of injuries. Part of it, though, would be like, okay, if you're going to build an offensive line, would you build 2 of your stars with an injury history of like Tehran and Isaiah Wynn? And it was a terrible luck with Connor, terrible luck with Hunt. Both those guys, I mean, kind of had a season-ending injury once, but you don't expect him to go down. Hunt, you don't ever expect to go down. But part of the reason Hunt got re-injured is because we were afraid one of the teams were going to their front, and he had to come back a little early. And so it was this high rotation. It was created by some bad luck, some bad planning, and this year you're not going to have that talent pool, but maybe you will get Eichenberg, who stays healthy all season. Maybe Brewer stays healthy all season. I don't know about Wynn or Tehran. Jackson might, and then that might help us out. I definitely think, Daniel, that the injuries play some part, but you also have to remember too, guys are injured. A lot of guys are injured in the NFL, especially on the offensive line. I mean, you look at Mark Straleth, and he was playing on bad knees every year. So I mean, but he's a great player. So yeah, you want to put some of that in there, but in the same token, we've been struggling with that for quite some time, and certain guys, they struggle with the physicality, and they hold all the time, even when they're not hurt. So it will, I think both Daniel and Joey, it's a combination, but we'll see this year. But if we don't hold and we could stay on schedule, not get so many negative plays, maybe run a little bit more inside, and I think that draw play with Wright is going to be, I mean, that draw play with most of it is pretty good most of the time. He's a hard runner. He's a one-cut big guy. And Wright is pretty much the same thing, and he looks really good at that. So that stuff will help you. If you attack that A gap, it's going to slow everything down on the defensive side, and it's going to buy your offensive blockers time. We just don't know. We don't know anything. We don't know what if Tehran stays healthy all year? What if nobody goes down? I mean, it happened to the Bills. The Bills had a bunch of injuries on their offensive line 2 years before that, but they stayed all healthy all last year. Their right tackle's been injured all the time. He stayed healthy the entire year. So we don't know. But I know that every play is going to be about time and physicality. And when you get into that red zone or outside that red zone from the 40 and more, teams dial things up. It gets more serious. If you've ever played at all, like when you're, unless it's like a critical drive, but you're on the 20-yard line, the 30-yard line, the 40-yard line, you're kind of a little bit loose. But then as you get over that the 50 and you start getting creeping closer to the red zone, you start feeling like that ratcheting up of the nerves. You start feeling that ratcheting up, like, I got to get, buckle it down. And so the nature of the person is to commit more, both from the DC or the OC and then the players themselves. And it's in that 40 to red zone where we did pretty good in the NFL, guys. We're still like a top scoring team. But just imagine if we can clear some of these things up, what we'll be. And it could go a long way towards Chris Greer's philosophy, which is like, it is out of the box, be proven right. And that would be, I'm not a big fan of Chris Greer, but I love my Dolphins. So I don't care if Jack the Ripper's leading them. I want him to do well, draft well, Jack. So I'm not saying Chris Greer's Jack Ripper, you know what I'm saying? So we got to see how it plays out. But this is amazing stuff. When you realize how much we put ourselves in the hole and how easy it is to correct that, rectify that, what is it going to mean this year? I don't know. We're going to see. So I want to dial a little bit more in some film maybe next time as far as the O-line. But I think I'm going to even get more into this that site I had and add in more criterion. Even look at our run game, because our inability to run inside, people keep saying that do we still need more depth at O-line going into the season? You always need more. I don't know. I think we need more starting talent. I think Eichenberg's a starter. I don't think he's starting talent. Anybody, if you want to go watch the Washington game. Is his best rated game. And, I don't know, maybe I should do some film of it. I mean, I like Connor Krebs a ton. I think the guy's I think he's bright, very bright. Better deliverer than me and stuff like that. And I think he does a really great job. But I got to disagree with him on Eichenberg being okay. I think Eichenberg's bad. But, we'll see what happens with this season. We'll see, how it plays out. I think we need some more starting talent. I don't think I really don't. I would hope, I wished Chris Greer would go grab a guy that would really give Eichenberg a run for his money in practice and take the starting job from him. But I don't know if we're going to do that. I'm concerned. I mean, to me, so like if Tehran goes down, would you take Connor and I don't think he's ever come back yet. I don't think he's come back. I think he's angry. I think he's like, dude, you moved me to a new position. I aced it. And I don't know. I don't even know if he's playing. We don't even know right now. We don't even know if this guy's playing. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know. I think if the time he's ready to play, look, he got hurt late in the season. I don't even think the guy's going to be ready to play football until at least mid-season, maybe later. The guy's injury was so bad, there was a bunch of people saying they don't even know if he's ever playing football again. To me, Connor's way better than Brewer. Way better. But I like Brewer. I think, if you flank Brewer with the right guards, he can do well. But again, this system might work out, I mean, it might. I think if Peely can develop, because it's not just the offensive line, it's the defensive too, you got to stop, the passing stats are important, but you go and you look, teams that run the football, they don't have to be the best, but they have to run effectively, and they stop the run. Those are teams that win Super Bowls, And so I like Peely a lot. I liked him last year. I like Wilkins better, but in a lot of ways, he reminds me of Wilkins. He's an agile battler. I just don't, Remember, Wilkins came in at 25. I think he was 25 years old when he came into the league. He was almost a man. So Peely was a younger kid. So if Greer can hit on Peely, I mean, look out. I mean, you don't know. Anything's possible. But this time, you got to really understand that. And I really wanted to harp on a time part and the physicality part, because if you go look at what I just showed you, along with the blitz rate, time to throw, and the clean time to throw, you got to know that's makeup on the offensive line. And that should help you give some context to Tua, And I'm not saying the kid's the greatest thing ever, but you've got to start from the line of scrimmage. And Dolphin fans that I remember a couple of years ago, he got injured, but they don't know what it is, but it's a concern. Yeah, because last year you had Tehran, Connor, and Hunt, 3 studs. One goes down. Scott, who was on here, showed you like what we were able to do with 1, 2, and 3. But really, Brewer is maybe a stud, but he's one of the best guys you got. And then you got Tehran, who is a stud when he's healthy. Just imagine Tehran goes down, And I got to get the film out for you. There's no way Paul's playing guard. There's no way, in my opinion. But maybe he could play tackle for us. We'll see. I just don't want him to. I want him to succeed. I want this kid to be great. He's a good kid, man. He reminds me of Tehran. It's like he must be like, he was just so cool and nice. He's like, I respect what you were saying. He was just a real smart guy, good guy. I want to see him succeed. And we did it to Jackson. We threw him into the fire, and he, bad habits developed sloppy technique. And then we did the same thing with Eichenberg. You got to develop kids right. And I think Jackson has still got some bad stuff for being thrown into the fire too early. And I want this kid Paul to succeed. So I don't know. This is a very thin offensive line, but what happens if nothing happens? What if everybody stays healthy? And Peely steps up a little bit, and Hand is able to do his thing to mimic Wilkins enough, and we keep teams off run schedule on first down, and we just load up with our secondary. We got to see. I mean, it's not going to be an easy test for us, because offensive line, like if you look at it like an average, every tick above average, it lowers the difficulty level of the play caller and the skills. And then every tick below average, it increases the difficulty of the play caller and the skills. So whatever that offensive line is, it's a grading curve. So like, you're like, what does Tua need the best offensive line? Look at the best offensive line. He was doing this. You would say, oh no, he's not doing good enough, because it would just look at Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith. It was like one of the best offensive back, the Hogs and some other ones. But that was like an unbelievable. I remember one time he was injured. He was playing Green Bay, and he's like, I can't get hit. He didn't get hit all day. I mean, like that. It lowers. then in converse, if you look at Tua in 2021 with the 45th best offensive line in football and one receiver and the 3 OCs, I mean, it's got to create a grading curve. And that's what the offensive line and the trenches do. You know, and if you have never played at all at any level, it's hard to conceive. But that the flashes, the size of the spaces, the time with which to stretch out those few seconds all starts on the trenches and the line. And, you know, the same as the other, you cover some guys like, dude, you like run, the guy's made this third move and you're like, dude, what's going on? How much longer to cover this guy? So I think people got to really, hey, Yuki, man, what's going on, brother? I gave you the jab a couple of months ago. I didn't know you were coming back. I don't understand investing in receivers without investing in the O-line. Waddle and Hill are more than enough. We need to give Tua more time. Yeah, that's the point I want to get to. It's not, but it's a philosophy. And this is the thing I want you – look, I am Mr. Offensive Line. You know, you know, a lot of guys have been kind of coming on with that since I've been doing it, even with the Finns. Like, you know, before I even did this, I was like Mr. Offensive Line. But you have to understand there's interplay. So your skills and the speed that they get out into routes, that speed and depth creates problems for a secondary. They have to play off, which slows down their ability to get after you, and then it frees up time for you to block. Now, the best case scenario is Yuki, my man. The best case scenario is always you have the number one blockers, that your blockers are winning. And then on the defensive side, your defensive front's winning. If that's happening, then the table has been set properly. And it's a lot easier to consistently do that. It doesn't mean you're going to win because you don't got a secondary and you don't got receivers or a quarterback. It don't matter. Look at Minnesota, Indianapolis. They got a great offensive line, and they didn't do anything. But that ratio of either making it easier or making it harder is all set on the line of scrimmage with your D front and your O line, including your secondary blockers. And so I'm not a Tua guy, like in a sense. Like I like the kid. He's a Dolphins quarterback. He's my quarterback. But I always want fairness. Like even with Flores, I try to be fair with him. I try to be even like Greer now, who I got a lot of things I don't like about. I try to be fair. You know? As Merlin said in Excalibur, when a man lies, he murders some part of the world. And so truth to me is the key. And I just think that you could say Tua's not our guy, but you've always got to understand that that offensive line sets the difficulty level. And that offensive line has been down here. I mean, I hear the media push to say that we had some of the best blocking in the history of the game the first couple of weeks was like, it was crazy. Curtis is Mr. O-line when he says it's impossible to win without a top level with the right scheme skill players. That's being objective. Yeah, you can win. I mean, just go look at it this way. Name one bad offensive line that won a Super Bowl. Name one. There's not one bad offensive line that's ever won a Super Bowl. And I don't even know if there's even been a bad defensive front that's won a Super Bowl. I'd like to look into that. But I know there's never been one bad offensive line. There's been bad quarterbacks, bad running backs. You know, not bad secondary so much. But offensive line is like the primary trench controller because it buys time for the defense. But you don't need to have top 5 or top 10. You don't. It depends. So, like if you had 15, but your quarterback's here, your receivers here, and your running backs here, it's less you need to elevate them. You know, but if your quarterback and your receivers and your running backs here, then you need that offensive line higher to raise them. And vice versa on the other side with the D front. You know, I think a good guy I talk to all the time, he showed Chris Kaufman talking about, you don't need 2 awesome D tackles. You don't. You need, I'm going to go break that down, having a chance to break that down. I'm sorry. Yeah, the O-line can't score points. I get that, but we are definitely more skewed towards 100%, 100%. And it's a philosophical choice, and that's the first thing before you get to anybody else. You gotta understand it. That's why I wanted to talk about the time and the physicality and what the offensive line means as a prime mover for a play. Chris Greer's philosophical choices are very stark and original, in some ways brave and bold, but it's the road less traveled. And so you got to start with this concept of, hey, man, we don't really need a great offensive line. We can throw kind of guys out there. And we're going to go hot and heavy in the secondary. And we're going to go hot and heavy on edges. We're going to go hot and heavy in receiver. Maybe it plays out. And if it does, he's created a new big idea. But if not, before you get to anybody else, you got to go, well, if this has been the foundational principle and you eschewed it, I got to start with you first. So, we have bottom 31. Forget about no. But when I would say when we had a healthy Tehran, Connor, and Hunt, we got between maybe around 20th, maybe his times close to 15th, maybe I don't know. I think that's a lot. Maybe 17th. But the lack of depth and then strong weaknesses at right tackle and left guard really hurt us. So when you pull his talent out, we could be low. But we'll see. If Chris Greer and Smith and OBJ and all this stuff, they can throw that football that fast and they get all that rack and they can uplift this thing, maybe it can last long enough if we stay healthy. I don't know. I'm just trying to be fair. McDee's offense seems heavily based on putting defenses in conflict more than winning man-to-man in the trenches. You can't win. You can't. But what came first, the chicken or the egg? Is that his concept? Is that philosophy? Or has he said, this is what it's going to be? I'm building this offense. I find the talent and you coach. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Whoever the idea is, they should get the brunt of because it's everybody else in the league is adding massive amounts to their offensive line and secondary blockers and a D line and stuff, and we're kind of saying, hey, man, so road less traveled, and to me, it's interesting. So we'll see. So that's it, guys. I had a little bit more for you. Let me see. You got any other stuff you want to talk about, guys? How did I do it? Is it coherent? I apologize for the tech issue, too. I saw a stat where, hey, Scotty, what's going on, brother? I saw a stat where in the last 15 years, Miami has invested second most draft picks on the line. I don't think that's true. It can't be, dude. Maybe, no, not draft picks. No, it can't be. I could be wrong, but we didn't draft. If you go back and look at all drafts, we don't draft any offensive linemen, Scotty. I could be wrong. I'll look into that. But if you go back, look. I'll look right now. Hold on a second. NFL draft history. Couldn't be second most. Maybe if you're factoring in the draft stat, not number of players, but maybe picks. Maybe you're saying first, second, third. Maybe that's what you mean. I don't know. I'd have to check the actual amount of draft capital. Maybe they're talking about the actual number value of it, because we have spent a lot of top picks and a lot of them haven't panned out. So, but as far as number, not really. Let me see. Where is this? NFL draft history. Let me see. One second. Dolphins draft history. No, I don't think so, because there was years that we never drafted. All right, so I'll go quick. 24, we drafted one. Patrick Paul. Ryan Hayes in the 7th round, 23. Nobody, 22. 7th round, Lanal Coleman, 21. 20, we drafted Jackson and Hunt and Kinley, and we spent 2 fourth-round picks, and we spent the year before Eichenberg. Eichenberg was 21. Oh, Lionel Coleman in 21, and then Liam in the second. He was a second and third. 19, we got Isaiah Prince in the 6th. No players in 2018. No 2017. Tunsil in the first round of 16. Nobody in 2015. Juwan James in 2000, the first in 2014. Billy Turner in the third. Dallas Thomas the third in 2013. And Martin, second round 2012. Pouncey, first round guard in 2011, but he was a center. And then John Jerry, third round 2010. And then, you obviously Gardner the year after that, and then obviously Jake Long. So I'll check into that. I don't know. It's interesting. It's good. I'm going to check into that and see what we've actually invested. Do they mean? Oh, okay, yeah, maybe it was total picks because I don't know if we've done. See, that's the biggest problem with our offensive line. We never find guys late in the back end. But if you look, the teams that are really good at drafting offensive line that have fleshed out offensive lines that are really potent, they find guys in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th and 7th, and even undrafted. And every one of those guys that you find is like a magnifier. It's a big, big, big magnifier. So I'm going to go check that out, Scotty. Man, I thought my wife be there a little extra late. Scotty had something for me. I'm not going to do it tonight, but I'll check into it. That's really good, man. Because if we did, we really sucked in late egg. I mean, look at some of those picks we got. Anyway, guys, that's it, man. I appreciate it. I hope it was semi-coherent. I apologize on the tech issues. I'll try to get them rectified. But I do think there's a way through for this team to not be conventional, but we are very unconventional. And so it's going to be very, very interesting to see this season. I am concerned, but we'll see. We'll see. So anyway, guys, sorry, Yuki. Goes watching replay. Brother, I'll catch you guys next time. I'm back on next Friday. Hopefully better. And Joe, I'm sorry about the audio thing. I'll try to figure that out. Guys, you're the best. I appreciate everything you do. Cursing, catch you next time. Be well. Go Fins.